Good evening, actually, everybody. Paul here coming at you with a bit of a late crypto coffee update. It was a hustle and bustle sort of day on my end, but that's how it goes sometimes when you're trying to help out building this space to be the best it could possibly be. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the exciting news, events, and conferences we have going on for you today. And of course, it's a bit late for coffee, so simultaneous sip with a little bit of good old high quality H2O. Hydration, it's very important. Okay, so we have an update for you on the Coinbase situation. To get you up to speed, Coinbase had a new acquisition, a blockchain analytics firm known as Neutrino. Now, it seems that some of the individuals that comprise this Neutrino team are primarily composed of individuals that made up the hacking team. What is the hacking team? It is a seemingly nefarious group of individuals who self-identify as fascist and authoritarians that generally want to further the aim of governmental control using whatever means necessary. Definitely not the kind of group of individuals you would expect to be working with decentralized and distributed financial systems that seek to largely liberate individual circumstances. So kind of a weird confluence there. Even stranger still, this group helped individual entities like the Saudi Arabian government with the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, I think I'm pronouncing that right, and a few other authoritarian regimes throughout the world. So very little ethical standards for this new Coinbase acquisition. Well, it turns out they're actually pushing out these ex-Hacking Team employees. Here's a quote from Brian Armstrong, CEO of Coinbase. Those who previously worked at Hacking Team, despite the fact that they had no current affiliation with Hacking Team, allegedly, these are authoritarian fascists after all, so I would take their word with more than a grain of salt, will transition out of Coinbase. This was not an easy decision, but their prior work does present a conflict with our mission, you think? So, this is good to see. This is the very least they could do, considering the track record of these individuals. Here's the actual announcement on March 4th from Brian Armstrong, living up to our values in the Neutrino acquisition. Apparently, due diligence is not one of the values at Coinbase, since you can see here we had a gap in our diligence process, I'd say. Well, here's what's weird. Last Crypto Coffee update, right? March 1st, article came out. This lady here, her name is Christine Sanders. She is the head of sales at Coinbase. You can see that here. Then they were aware of the backgrounds of some of the folks that were involved in Neutrino, and we're looking into that. So which is it? In a 72-hour period, they went from, we are willing to publicly admit that we're aware of this background and we're currently looking into it, to, oh man, we had a gap in our diligence process. So are they aware of it or not? That's a question Jesse Powell's asking, CEO of Kraken. He said it's just optics without action. There's no timeline on transitioning people out. Plus, by the way, Coinbase is keeping the software. What will the continued relationship with these individuals be when they're not CB employees? After all, he says they're terminating their employment. Could there be contract work in the future? No resolution on the conflicting statements about having done due diligence or not, as we just mentioned. So really interesting stuff. And here is a component we talked about in the last video that you may remember. It was important for Coinbase allegedly to migrate away from their current providers. Again, according to Sandler, the head of sales at Coinbase. When asked about this, they said they were selling client data to outside sources, and it was compelling for us to get control over that and have proprietary technology that we could leverage to keep data safe and protect our clients. So that could perhaps be a compelling reason, you know, if this individual entity is selling user data, and perhaps that's the only way Coinbase can gain access to this exchange for data sort of pay-to-play service. Well, ultimately got to do what you got to do. But here's what's really strange. Elliptic, which is the partner in question, says that they are not even handling customer data for Coinbase that has identifiable parameters, meaning that there's no way they can ascertain any actionable information about the bulk data that is being sent from Coinbase. So this is maybe the best case scenario in a not so great situation, and ultimately it begs the question. Is a seemingly third-party independent firm that you are giving your data to in bulk, through which they cannot ascertain any actionable information about your clients, how is that? Is that not preferable to an authoritarian regime like the hacking, well, not regime, but authoritarian group like the hacking group, as you can see here, that's helped with the murder of journalists and violation of human rights? It seems kind of like a step down rather than a step up, because at least Neutrino would assumingly just sift through your data and try and glean pieces of information, whereas the hacking team may as well ship you off to the Saudi version of SEAL Team 6 and have you thrown out the back door. So really strange stuff. Ultimately, I think this space deserves more transparency than that. Coinbase occupies a mammoth position of helping to onboard new users, and if new users are only going to have their data siphoned off to assumingly terrorists around the world, that's not exactly the kind of look this space as a whole wants to have. Realistically, I think there needs to be some transparency, and Brian Armstrong owes the community an explanation, not just hiding behind blog posts like this. Reasonably, we haven't seen much transparency coming out of Coinbase at each twist and turn that they had the chance to do so. So reasonably, here's my thought. If you guys haven't seen the What Bitcoin Did podcast, check it out. It's fantastic. Peter McCormick does fantastic work interviewing these high caliber individuals. We're talking Brock Pierce, Andreas Antonopoulos, and even more who are well connected and historically versed in the space. Jed McCaleb's been here since the beginning. Peter sits down, does a fantastically objective as possible job talking to these people, trying to get an idea as to what's going on, what they think of the space, and help to clarify just issues and perceptions that may be surrounding the work they're doing. This is a fantastic opportunity for Brian Armstrong to clear the air on a growing podcast, touch base with the crypto space, and step down from the ivory tower and communicate exactly what went wrong with this insane acquisition. Included individuals who are self-proclaimed fastest in an industry that otherwise embodies the notion of liberating human finance. It seems kind of strange. So the ball's now in Coinbase's court. It's now in the court of Brian Armstrong. Is he going to make a move and try and be more transparent about this, or is this all we're going to get? We will keep you updated as we move forward. Next up, we have Starbucks. Everybody loves a good, slightly overpriced coffee, but it's really, really good as long as you get the actual coffee. I'm not a big sugar guy. Just black coffee will do for me. There are blends from all around the world, so you can get creative with that. Well, exciting stuff. You may be able to settle that payment with Bitcoin coming soon. Back in the day, about a year and some change ago, everybody was freaking out. Oh my God, I can pay with my mocha frappuccino with Bitcoin. It's going to be fantastic. Well, not quite. They were simply working with Bakkt, not even officially partnered per se, and there were talks about eventually integrating Bakkt's software. For those of you who maybe that rings a bell, Bakkt is the institution, the large entity that is being funded by the Intercontinental Exchange, a firm that owns entities like the New York Stock Exchange. So some pretty big name groups and entities are subsidiaries of the Intercontinental Exchange. Bakkt is now one of those. So it is their crypto arm that seeks to settle crypto futures contracts, specifically in the denominated assets. So let's say Bitcoin. So if I buy a Bitcoin futures contract, it could be settled in Bitcoin. That is Bakkt's ultimate goal. So now it seems they have acquired Starbucks using a lovely mechanism called disproportionately high equity deal, i.e. juicing them with a bunch of cash to jump on board and potentially allow coffee for Bakkt. Again, this is nothing that is set in stone yet. It is, I really like what they say here, an industry in waiting, and using this equity reward in return for its continued adoption pledge. Again, just here's a pile of cash, stay with us, we're going to make this happen. Starbucks is a big name, folks. This is really exciting and interesting to see. So again, nothing in crazy definitive other than this is now more concrete than it was previously, and we're beginning to see some more information come to light, but this is another thing we will keep you up to date on as the story unfolds. And interestingly enough, couldn't have come at a better time. Bitcoin transactions are approaching new highs during the crypto market bull run. So you can see here we have the July 2017 to roughly February 2018. You saw kind of spikes in transaction volume for Bitcoin, and here we are well on the way again. But prices haven't moved, so that's kind of strange. And that is simply because it seems as though there is no correlation per se, no meaningful correlation between daily Bitcoin transactions and the cryptocurrency price. It may be due to Bitcoin futures, it may be due to the Lightning Network and other layer 2 solutions, it may be due to individuals just playing around, sending smaller amounts, testing their software built atop Bitcoin as they build throughout this bear market. So it could be any confluence of these in any varying degrees, and realistically, if it's a Lightning Network, we know why, because you can't send any meaningful amount of money over the dang thing. As we talked about last time, you can only send small payments over Lightning Network right now after spinning up your own node, and you can use prepackaged hardware, software combinations if you want. There's ways to do that. Jack Dorsey actually got himself, as you can see here, Lightning node thanks to a company. Forget the name off the top of my head. We'll dig it through. Casa HODL. It's like a little hardware thing. You just plug it up and it's a Lightning node. Pretty neat. However, there is some technical expertise necessary, but it definitely helps to ease the process for sure from a hardware side. But as said, you can't really send huge payments over the Lightning Network. I think it's like a $200 payment. Yeah, it's a $200 payment, has a less than 1% chance of routing. And that, of course, as you move down in terms of dollar amounts, you have a greater chance of success. And that has to do with the peer nodes that you choose to move through. You got to select your path. And if you select a path in which the next node does not have proper liquidity, then your payment gets stuck and you have to wait for it to reset. And that's not the kind of thing you want to do at a grocery store. So nonetheless, with that said, that would entail that assumingly the average amount of payment is less, and therefore you'd have to send more payments, which would run concurrent with this increase in Bitcoin transactions that we're seeing. However, again, this is a layer 2 solution, so maybe that wouldn't show up directly. It all depends on how these individuals would configure the payment. So really interesting information there. I'm really excited to see where this technology goes. It definitely hasn't been the home run, knockout at the park move we've been hoping for in the Bitcoin community, but that's okay. Not everything is supposed to succeed. That's how experimentation works. And just to give you an idea, you have 30K channels, 7K nodes. It's been 18 months away for over 4 years now, and I just wanted to use this as an example. And I'm not, before we go down, I'm not saying these are the same thing. I know there are folks out there who are going to say, oh man, you're calling this a scam, you are an enemy of the people. Not what I'm saying. I'm just using this as an example to show that, well, all of Rome's citizens can't be wrong, and that's right before the Visigoths come knocking on the door. Just because it has a large amount of transactions, just because it has the backing of a good collection of people, it doesn't necessarily preclude it from being successful from a technical perspective. Now, sometimes those two run hand in hand concurrently. If something has a lot of support, it can generally gain more capital. It's a self-feeding positive feedback loop, but that's not definitively and intrinsically predeterminate. And you can see here BitConnect. I know I was really wondering if I should use this analogy, but I think it serves well, especially now that we're moving away historically from this point in time. People don't realize BitConnect is a Ponzi scheme. It was a Ponzi scheme. It was defunct in early 2018, and at one point was in the top 10. Couldn't find the explicit historical snapshot from where am I? CoinMarketCap. It's not, I can't want to say Bitcoin Talk. On CoinMarketCap, it was at one point in the top 10. Now it's dropped down to 14. Now it's gone because it was a Ponzi scheme, essentially. And I mean, all of Rome's citizens can't be wrong, guys. There was times when people were just loving on BitConnect, best thing since sliced bread. You just don't understand it, and lo and behold, well, it didn't work from a technical perspective, from a fundamental mathematical perspective. And perhaps that's what will occur with the Lightning Network, unless we can get some large centralized nodes through which we can route payments assuredly. It's an indeterminate future. But let me know what you think about this below in the comments. This is just one man's opinion, and after all, like I said, I'm not some paragon that has all the answers, and definitely do not have a crystal ball where I can see the future. So really, sharing is caring, and comparing and contrasting information and opinions is what makes the world go round. It's how we arrive closer to the objective truth that we're all trying to seek out the best we possibly can. So really curious about your opinions. Let me know in the comments. Hop over in the Discord. Saw some new users joining the other day. Always great stuff happening there. Now, Tether. Tether seeks to launch on Tron. Okay, I'm a bit biased here. I'm just going to be straight up with you guys. You probably know my opinions on Tron. Not a huge fan. Delegated proof of stake system is what it is. Bit more centralized. Tether, shady past to say the least, but it's the most used stablecoin. So you got to accept the lay of the land for what it is, and this could be a really good move. Actually, Tether is an Omni asset. Omni is a very old cryptocurrency relative to its competitors in the field. So Tether was launched on Omni, but it's little known that actually there's an ERC20 derivative of Tether that accounts for about 3% of Tether volume. So this is not something particularly new per se. It's really interesting to see Tether expanding its USD issuance and launching on the Tron blockchain. So stablecoins already exist in other blockchains. Really interesting to see they're branching out. Here's a quote from the CEO, Jean-Louis van der Velde. "This integration underlines our commitment to furthering innovation in the cryptocurrency space as we continue to anticipate the needs and demands of the digital asset community." So really interesting stuff there. Here's Justin Sun, the front hype man for Tron. And I gotta say, guys, love him or hate him, appreciate what he's doing or not, believe that Tron is a great project or just basically a centralized computing machine thing. The dude knows how to market. I mean, the dude could sell sand in the Sahara Desert. Like, really impressive stuff. And this is definitely a notch in Justin Sun's belt and the Tron community's belt as well. So, got to give credit where credit is due. Congratulations to both of these entities. May the partnership serve them both well, but more importantly, may it serve the interest of the wider crypto community even more so. I can't stress enough. As I said here with Jesse Powell's points, the great points he made, we are owed a level of transparency in the space, considering that if it's not your keys, it's not your coin. And if it's on chain, it's real. If it's not, it could be anything. So getting back to basics in terms of attesting data, having that transparency that really lit the space on fire to begin with, and just set off this wave of interest and adoption that we saw in the early days before 2017, and ultimately culminated in that huge 2017 run, and now the winter of building and innovation that we've seen, not only in second layer solutions like the Lightning Network, which of course it has seen some mass adoption relative to where it was just a year ago. So things are moving there. Don't want to only be down on this technology, but on other apps and applications that have been built upon many of these networks. Again, here's a historical snapshot just from November 5th, 2017. And I mean, a lot of these projects have so much more built upon them now than they did back in the day. EOS has so many more apps. Stellar Lumens is now Sharia compliant. Stratus has a partnership with Microsoft. Komodo is going through a rebranding with their DEX. I mean, Steam, they've fallen a bit from grace, but you know, they're still working. They're still building stuff. Ardor, man, I can't even tell you what Ardor is doing with their lightweight smart contracts. If you guys haven't been watching that one, I don't know what you're doing. There's so much going on in this space, and it's a bear market. So it's exciting to see. Who knows when the price is going to come catapulting up again, whether that be 6 months, 1 year, 10 years. But one thing's for sure, the advent of the first distributed, decentralized, permissionless ledger known as Bitcoin has ushered in this wave of innovation, and we wouldn't be here talking about it if we didn't have that. So really great stuff, guys. Thanks so much for this quick episode of the Crypto Coffee Update. Like I said, had a lot going on today. Kind of broke with my regular schedule, but you know, breaking up the monotony helps to rejuvenate the soul, helps to keep the mind sharp, helps to keep you on your toes, and ultimately, isn't that what life is all about? So like I said, hit me up in the comments, guys. Let me know what you think about this kind of content. Like and share and subscribe, please. Helps the channel out a ton. And check out the links below for all the sources, and join the Discord. What you missing? You got all the news and stuff going on in your one-stop shop. Hey, thanks again, guys. Much love. My name is Paul. We are Cryptide, and remember, the tide is rising, as is hopefully the transparency coming out of our friend Brian Armstrong here at Coinbase. Brian, you have been a paragon of the space. Let's see what you got to say.